Okay, then we come to the pet farm.
I had a question, please. For cells 8-5 to 8-10, were we supposed to change the name on top?
A5 here?
It's not the difference.
No. Okay, here is the pet farm, and a lot of you, I mean, I didn't do anything with the overnight stays. I mean, as if they are numbers to be ignored again. Here it says you have a pet farm. It seems like it is a place for pets to stay overnight, and they charge $18 per night per stay. These are your fixed expenses. Fixed expenses means they do not change with the number of nights, irrespective of you have 200 or 1200. They have to be exactly the same. Fixed meaning doesn't change. So we are going to total the fixed expenses. And total the variable expenses. And it doesn't make sense to calculate the total expense and the profit for just one stay. You have to do it for the actual number of stays. So if the revenue is 18, what should be the revenue for 200 nights? It's equal to the 18, and 18 is fixed. So I need to click on F4 to fix it. Multiply by the 200. The 200 will become 400 in column D, E, F, G, H, but they are all in row 5. So again, I need to fix the 5. And if I have this one, I can now drag it to the right. Now the 1300, as I said, is fixed. Should not be changed. So it needs to be fixed. Click on F4. And now it is the same for all of them. Your variable cost is variable. It changes. It's equal to the variable, the B20, and the B20 is the 8 is fixed for 1. You will multiply it with the different units. And the C5, the row 5 is fixed. Total expenses is equal to your fixed expense plus total variable expense. And I have to ask myself, is there anything fixed in here? The C14 plus C20 will become D14 plus D20 will become E14 plus E20. Nothing fixed there. My profit is equal to my revenue minus my total expenses. And some people, because the revenue was smaller, switched the formula. But I cannot give you credit because this is basic stuff. So it is the revenue, whatever your revenue is, minus all of your expenses will become your profit. It cannot be expenses minus profit. And then it asks you to calculate the break-even point. And we said break-even point. It is a number of units. It's not a dollar amount. And it is calculated based on the 1 unit. So all of your values that are used for the formula are for 1 unit. It is your fixed expenses divided by the difference between the revenue minus your variable expense. And you have to put them between parentheses because I have order of operation. If I don't put them between parentheses, the division will happen first and then the subtraction. What I want to do is to subtract first and then divide. So it is 1300. I said, and I told you in the review, it will appear as a dollar sign. Again, it's part of the testing, is that to understand break even is number of units, it's not a dollar amount. And then I ask you to do a goal seek. I say, assume I want a 4,000 profit. So just highlight any cell, 400, the one that one of the profits, and all of them are negative. So just choose the highest of them, and go to data. And it is a what if analysis. Goal seek. And I want to change H24 to 4,000. And it asks you either by changing your revenue or the number of stays. So you're changing cell. If it is revenue, highlight the revenue and hit OK. And it becomes 22. Or it could be, again, that I want you to change the profit to 4,000 by changing the number of stays. And it becomes 1,700. So regarding this particular question, you have to understand that I have to calculate the revenue for each individual stay. My total fixed is the same irrespective of the number of stays. So it is equal to a value. It's not multiplied by anything. You do not multiply by the number of units. It is fixed. Your variable cost needs to be multiplied by the units. Total expenses is equal to your fixed plus variable. Profit is equal revenue minus total expenses. And then your break even is the fixed divided by the difference. So I have to put between parentheses the difference between revenue and variable cost. The last part is the goal seek. This one asks you to insert a new column called the BMI. So and the BMI is equal to the weight multiplied by 703 divided by the height to the power 2. The exponential will happen first, so you don't need the parentheses. But if you are unsure, you can always put a parenthesis, and that will make sure exponentiation will occur first, and then multiplication, and then the division last. So that should be your BMI, and you just copy it to the rest. The second part asks you to calculate, to forecast the BMI given the saturated fat. And here I got all kinds of variations. There are people, of course, who got it correctly. If I give you the saturated fat and I want you to forecast the BMI, you cannot use LDH or cannot use anything. I said use saturated fat. So you have to use saturated fat. So it is equal to forecast the value for the saturated fat. And there are 3 arguments for forecast. So remember, forecast 3 arguments. One is the single value that I have for the saturated fat. It is saturated fat, comma, all values for BMI and then all values for saturated fat. So remember, if I want to forecast BMI using the saturated fat, it starts with saturated fat, all values for BMI, all values for saturated fat. BMI, SAT, and then BMI again. Yes. Okay, so I start by the value for saturated fat, all values for the BMI, they are in D, and then all values for the saturated fat. I know I'm going to use the formula for all of the rest, so I need to fix the E2. As we said, we only have one set of values, so I need to fix that range. I'm hitting F4 in order to fix them. And then I copy. Remember, the forecast is trying to determine what is the value of a BMI given a value of saturated fat based on my past experience. So it starts by, take that one value for the saturated fat, take all of my BMI, and I must give you a column that has all BMIs. Here it is. And then take all of my saturated fat. I cannot use any other column because the question says use saturated fat to forecast BMI. You cannot pick and choose. The last question is the if. And I was amazed that a lot of you did not know it. That's 204. It says look at the cholesterol and see if it is above 230. And if it is above 230, put at risk. So it is equal to if, and that's very simple. Check cholesterol, which is J2, greater than 230. And I put a comma. Put the value at risk. Otherwise, don't put anything. And I leave an empty set of quotes, and I close. And that's all. So again, if, and I highlight the first value of cholesterol greater than 230, that's my test. Check if cholesterol is above 230. Put the word at risk. Otherwise, don't put anything. And again, I copy it. So only ones that have above 230, 252, 262, 272 have the word at risk. Otherwise, you don't have it. The last part asks you to draw the correlation between the BMI and something else. So you have to highlight your BMI. And let's say it is BMI and cholesterol. So I will hit Control and highlight the cholesterol. And go and insert a scattered chart. And it is the first option. And I have my chart right there. And I need to move it, so I'm going to highlight the chart. And I say move chart into a new sheet. And I can keep it chart 1. And now I need to insert a trend line. So I right click and say insert a trend line, and I want to display the equation and the R square. And you can see the R square. What is the cutoff for the R square? What did we say the cutoff for the R square is? Close to 1 is mean perfect correlation. Anything above 0.7 is no correlation or not significant correlation. So I need to add a comment below 0.7, meaning a weak correlation. So there is no correlation between the cholesterol and the BMI. And I need to change the title for the and I need to add access titles. And you need to spread it out. So is it the horizontal or the axis? So it should look like this. That's all for the chart. And question number 10, the last one is 11, and that has only two parts. One is the formulas, and we said the formula is not a sum. The profit is not a sum. It is the profit per unit multiplied by the number of units plus the profit for the second multiplied by the units for the second. Same thing here, it is equal to units of this multiplied by the units of the West Indies plus units airline cost for New Zealand multiplied by the units for New Zealand. My C7s and D7 are fixed, so I can fix them. And the last part is using solver. So under data, you should have already added solver. If not, then you go under file and options and add-ins and go, and you have to check solver add-in. And you should see solver on your thing. Again, a lot of people did not know how to set solver. Solver is used to maximize or minimize an objective. What's my object? Looking at this Excel sheet, what's the objective? Profit. I want to maximize profit. So it should be my E8. The second thing, what are you going to change in order to maximize the profit? No, you do not maximize you do not change the constraints. The constraints are fixed. the variables, these are the quantities that you will produce or provide of x and y. So your changes will be x and y. So it is C7 and D7. And now you need to add your constraints. First one is that whatever you use of the airline cost should be less than your boundary, your constraint. That's all, and solve. And it will say that you need to produce 10 of x, 3 of y, and get a profit of 33,000. That's your maximum profit. Okay, that's all for the exam. So again,